So here we are with our Note app, the social media site for people who talk to themselves. Again, I don't know if Notes will be the end cornerstone for this project, but I really like the idea there, the concept of a social media site for people who just talk to themselves. But anyways, as I've shown you before, we have created a tag cloud in the past. So we have tags for our different notes. We have created a tag cloud, and those tags are now clickable links. So we can see, basically everything with a particular tag. That's there. And what I've created yesterday was the ability to search now, right? So if I go up here to the search box and I type in Python, I type in text, I can do search. And now it'll give me everything with Python and text in it, right? So Python and text is there. Python is text in there. So basically this allows me to go through and to be able to search for every note that has all of these words in it. Now the important thing I want to talk about today is kind of like the mentality of how you try to solve problems. One of the things that I'll say about serving in the Army is that when I went through the electronics repair school, the number one skill, the number one valuable thing they gave me is the ability to troubleshoot problems, right? Every single technology that I learned in my 8 months in electronics school at this point is completely obsolete and really didn't have a civilian use anyway. So most of the actual technical things that I learned are worthless to me, like all that time I spent memorizing stuff. But what they did teach me is how to troubleshoot and think through problems, right? One of the big issues with new people when they start doing coding or whatever is they kind of think, more or less this all works on magic. They won't say that. They won't say that because if you say it works on magic, then they'll all laugh and go, oh, haha, it's stupid. But when they get down to their basements and they're working on their computers, they're like, well, it's not magic. It's kind of like magic. But the reality is no, you actually have to sit there and you have to work through to solve a problem. And one of the important things to be thinking about, especially if you're new in technology, is to learn how to solve problems even if at the end of the day, it might not be the best way to solve the problem, right? So in order to make this work, I'm going to show you about 40 lines of code that I created. And to be clear, what I want to tell you about this may not be the best way to solve this problem, right? In a month or a couple of days, somebody may, I might find a way to solve this search functionality a hell of a lot better. But just sitting there and trying to think through the process of how to solve this issue for myself is a useful thing. And it gives me this finished product so that I have this until somebody, teaches me to do it better. I think this is one of the big things a lot of new people, one of the issues they have is they don't want to look stupid. So instead of solving the problem with something that's stable, right? A stable solution that just may not be the best. Instead of creating a stable solution that may not be the best, they're just like, no, I won't do it. And then they don't build anything. And again, if you're not building, then you're not a technology professional. How do I know if I'm a real technology professional? Well, are you building crap? The answer is yes. If you're sitting there drinking beer, talking about what you will do, that's a wannabe. People actually shipping product, that's what really matters. But anyways, I wanted to kind of talk about solving this problem, right? Because the issue is, if I have only one word, right? If I have only one word here, going through a search is pretty easy, right? So we have a box. Basically, we post the value in this box to a script that'll essentially scan through all of the different notes, all the different note records, and come back with anything that has that one word in it. But the issue that you run into is once you start having multiple words, the question is how do you get results that have these two words, right? It's easy to split this into a list or split this into an array and find everything with Python and everything with text. But the question is, how do you find something with Python and text and anything else, right? That's the issue. We come here, we can kind of take a look at how I solve this problem. And again, to be clear, trigger warning, Trigger warning! I'm not telling you this is the best way to do it. I'm just showing you how I did it, just so you can kind of get an idea of like thinking through the process, right? So we have the template. So basically this is the notes template for how this is supposed to show up. We basically grab that, import that. Then we're gonna have the query. So request.post query. So basically what this is the value that you put here is going to come in as a post value under query. And so we're going to create the query variable with the value assigned as whatever comes in under post query. Now the thing is, right, when we look at Python and text, now it would be really easy if we essentially put a double quotation mark around that and said wherever Python space text shows up, give us a result. But right, Python text over here, Python text down here, right? They're in different places. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to split those query words that came in, and I'm going to turn them into a list. So if you're dealing with PHP, you would turn them into an array, but in Python world, you turn them into a list. So basically, Python will be at index 0, and text will be at index 1, other word will be at index 2, so on and so forth. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an empty, what's called a query set. So in Python, you have lists, you have dictionaries, you have query sets. You probably have a lot of other stuff too. But a query set kind of looks like an array, but it's not an array. To be clear, it's not an array. And so with Python, you have to declare your variables before you start dealing with them. So I'm going to basically create this empty variable here. And then what we're going to do is for x in query words. For every word in the list query words, we're going to strip out the white space. So again, do you remember with text, word with a white space at the end is different than word without a white space, which is different than word with a white space at the beginning, which is different than a word with a white space at the beginning and a white space at the end. So again, when you're doing things like searches and queries, that can be a real problem. So we're going to strip out all the white space around the word. So it's just going to be CSS or Python, that's it, text, that's it. And then notes, so basically this is going to be our query to the database. Notes equals filter. Basically, this is like a select statement where memo contains the query word, or tags contain the query word, or title contains the query word. So contains, basically this allows you to have wildcards. Instead of it being title equals X, title contains X. That gives you the wildcard. Values means you get all the values, so memo, title, owner, the whole 9 yards. And then what we're going to do here is results, that query set that we created before, we're going to do results.union. So what union does is it marries the results together. So we're going to get all the results where Python shows up, and that's going to be in the query set. And then we're going to search for all the results that have text, the next word, and then we're essentially appending. Union is essentially appending, but for query sets. So then we're just going to create a large set of all these records, and they have either Python or they have text. Now the issue there, right, that's simple. Okay, so here's all the search results that either have Python or they have text. But is that useful? Nah, that's not really useful. I only want the results that have both Python and text in them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here. I'm going to create a results array. This should actually be called a results list. I'm going to create a list. So a list is just items. And the results record, this is called a dictionary. So in the Python world, this was the named key array or an associative array. In the PHP world, that's called a dictionary in the Python world. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these values out of this query set where I can't really interact with them, and I'm going to turn these values into a list of dictionaries, right? So here, results record equals a blank dictionary. I'm going to add the ID to the dictionary, title of the dictionary, memo to the dictionary, URL, owner, tags, added timestamp. All of that is going to be added to this dictionary. And then this dictionary is going to be appended to this list. And this is one of the things in the Python world I'm having to get used to is you union query sets and you append lists. And you do something to dictionaries. There's another command used to dictionaries. But anyways, so what this is going to do is this is going to give me a list of the dictionaries of all the records. But I still have a really big, so this is still a list of all results, which is not what I want. So then what I want to go through, do is go through and basically find all the results I should delete out of this large list, right? So I have this really large list. Now I want to prune it down. So I create a list, results to delete list, for X in query words. So again, for Python and for text and whatever words, we're going to strip the white space again. I printed on the console just as troubleshooting. And then for Y in results, if X not in string Y, I'm going to add that particular record to the results that should be deleted, right? So basically what this is going to do is for each of the query words, we are then going to loop through each of the results. And if the query word is not in that particular result, what I want to do is I want to add that particular dictionary to be the one that needs to be deleted. Then we go down here, for X in results to be deleted, for Y in results array. So this is the list of all the items that should be deleted. This is the list of all the items. So if string X ID is in string Y ID, so basically if they match, then I'm going to remove that particular record from the list. And then we go through here, and then we basically ship all this out to the template. And that is how I solve this problem. So what I did basically to understand this is what I did here is I searched for any record that had either of the keywords in it. I then changed the format of the records that I got back into a list of dictionaries, so it was easier for me to parse and deal with. I then went here and figured out the records that didn't have one or the other of the words in it, so basically didn't have both words in it. And then here, I removed any of the records in that big list that did not have both words in it, and then I shipped those results off to the template, and we get this particular result. So there you go. That was what took me a little while to figure out. There's a lot of weird quirks here. There's a lot of weird quirks with Python and Django. Like there's some of this where it's like, yeah, I know there's probably a better way to do it. And then there's just other interesting things I had to learn about how this stuff works. Because like even here, like clearing the list. So I had to add this because for some reason, this wasn't auto clearing. I didn't really understand why. So I would get, so let's say there were two records here. It would end up printing two of the exact same record. So it would be able to detect that there were two different records. But then when it actually went to print, it would just give me two identical records, which was really weird. I fixed that by just clearing out this dictionary every time it loops through. But there's a lot of like interesting little things to go through and problems to fix. And so again, that's why it's so important here to try to build something. Again, just go out there and find some problem you want to solve and start trying to build a product that solves that particular problem. Because what's so useful with this is you go through and as you work on it day after day after day, you learn new things. You learn like with this, right? So again, at the end of it, to be completely clear, this may be a horrible way of doing it, right? But I got a lot of experience. Dealing with query sets, lists, and dictionaries yesterday. Like even if this isn't the best way to solve the problem, right? I got so much experience yesterday just sitting here playing with the lists and the query sets, and again, figuring out this union thing, right? The difference between union and append. And this is all the stuff that's gonna be important as you go on. Like as you figure out better ways to solve problems, then all of the experience that you've built up, building your crappy little apps up until that point, will come in handy. It's like, oh, that's a query set. You do union. You do union, of course. Why would you try to append a query set? That's stupid. So anyways, there you go. This is our particular project. I also created some color coding. I guess the function isn't working here. Created some color coding. That was one thing. So I actually also added what type of note this is, right? So we go to edit here. Status, so it can be a post, a scratch, a draft, or a post, right? So a scratch is basically just a scribble. So I just scribbled something down, whatever, right? A draft is, okay, I scribbled something down and then I put some additional notes and notations around what that scribble is so that it's a little bit more understandable. And then the idea of a post is where it's like you fully edited your note, so it's nice and clean. The title looks good. If you sit there and you actually read the notes make sense. Like somebody else would be expected to be able to read your notes and understand what's going on. So we also added that functionality yesterday once I figured out how to do search. And so that's where we have this color coding here. Basically green, so if it's a green background for the title, it's a post. If it's a yellow background for the title, it's a draft. And if it's a gray background for a title, then it's a scratch. Yeah, and so I'm also kind of thinking about that again. If we build out this as a social media site, the idea is like when you do searches, I only want to search for posts for where somebody actually spent the time and energy to write everything out, so it makes sense. I want to look for posts. Or on the other hand, you're like, I just need a freaking line of code. I haven't been able to find the answer anywhere. You might be able to like search in scratches, and with the scratches, you may find like 10 people just jotted down a line of code just so that they would remember it, and you go, oh, but okay, now I understand what that code is supposed to look like. So that's some of the new additional functionality here. So yeah, when you're sitting here, again, whether you're doing the technology world or the coding world, the big thing is, can you think through the problem? Because that's the thing, right? If you can think through the problem and solve the problem with the skills that you have, then when somebody gives you better skills or they give you better resources, they'll know you'll be able to solve the problem better with those better resources. If you just simply can't solve the problem, period, then there is that question of, even if somebody gave you more skills, even if somebody gave you more training or education, even if somebody gave you more resources, if you're not able to solve the problem now, will you be able to solve the problem with those more resources? Right? Kind of get what I'm saying? So anyways, there you go. That's a note-taking app. Yes, that's right. Social media site for people who don't want to talk to anybody else. Social media site for people who talk to themselves. As always, thumbs up, thumbs down, leave a comment, subscribe. We're almost to 1,000 subscribers on this channel, and I'll see y'all later.